What's good, everybody? It's the MLB playoffs. We're back on another episode of Around the A. Blake Newsom joined with my buddy Micah Neal once again. Gosh, man, we are literally 15 hours or so away from Atlanta Braves playoff baseball. We're back, year 6. We're trying to get the second ring, do what the 90s Braves couldn't. Got the Braves gear on for this episode.
Sure.
We out here repping. Man, like the chills are up the spine, the nerves are standing up on the back of our hair. Like, I am ready to go. I'm ready to run through a wall for this team. We've been sitting around for a week trying to get back with the Phillies. I was so nervous, and I basically am still a little nervous, but over the last couple of days sitting around, I'm starting to get, that factor of like I just want to run through a wall and see this team go to war. Where's your mindset at, man? It's playoff baseball. I know you're a newer baseball fan, but welcome to the club. It's the best one.
Man, I'm hyped. I'm ready. Like you said, we got a chance to get another one, and I'm expecting us to get it. And I like I said, I'm hyped and I'm ready. And like you said, ready to run through a wall for this team.
And I'm just realizing, I'm showing up a little inexperienced. I'm rocking out with the Mercedes-Benz backdrop. So on the fly, we're going to have to tune this up a little bit. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Haha. Either way, it's a beautiful afternoon for baseball tomorrow. We're coming to you guys on the evening of October 6th, 2023. Gosh, man, I'm so excited. It may be the Phillies, and I really think that might have been our worst draw in the first round. But, playoff baseball is playoff baseball regardless of how it plays out. And, I've been a fan of this team for a lot of years now. I've seen a lot of heartbreak, but I've seen a lot of triumph as well. And, I'm ready for whatever this year brings for us. Tomorrow is a big game for the Braves. They got to come out, punch Philadelphia in the jaw, and go up 1-0 in the series, not make it to where you have to go win 3 or 4 with them having home field. So tomorrow is a very, very big game. It's in a short series. It's how you set the tone. It's not a best of 7. You can't really afford to drop a game 1 like that. So we will see how it plays out for the boys down south. But yeah, man, of course it's a Braves special. We hope you guys enjoyed the Falcons episode that was uploaded Tuesday night, recapping the London games, pretty much the start of the season, previewing the game on Houston this weekend, which ironically Brandon Gaudin is on the call for. So, the Braves play tomorrow and Monday afternoon. You get the Falcons right in the middle on a Sunday. So hopefully we come out of this with a couple victories on the weekend. I'll sacrifice a Falcons loss if it means the Braves go 2-0 at home, though. What about you, Micah?
I don't know about that. I'll go for both wins.
If you had to choose, if the Falcons were to win, but the Braves go to Philadelphia 1-1, giving them home field like they did last year, would you say, yeah, the Falcons could lose this game, or no? It's a tough decision.
Very, because it's the Texans and we're at home.
But it's the Phillies and we're at home.
You know what? It's postseason. Gonna go with that Braves win.
Of course, we're hoping we go 3-0. Of course, we're hoping the Braves win tomorrow. Georgia, I don't know. The Falcons win Sunday.
You can tell which one I'm a bigger fan of.
Yeah, well, yeah, those colors definitely were shown. Hopefully, you show that you are a Braves fan this episode. 4 minutes, and we're not going to waste anybody's time. Let's get into action, man. Like, first of all, the first 2 games at home. I believe Game 3 is like a 5:00 start up in Philadelphia. They're usually start earlier than Atlanta anyway. Whenever we go up to Philadelphia, we start at like 6:30 instead of like a little before 7:30 here. So it makes a little bit of sense. I guess because the Dodgers will also be out in Arizona, so their game is an hour earlier. They'll be moving from LA to Phoenix, and we're on the same network as the Dodgers. So obviously Arizona and LA is going to be on later than Philadelphia and Atlanta. It's just how time zones work. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense that we're on at 5:00 for Game 3. I think 5:07. But it's a 6:00, 6:07 to be exact. First pitch these next 2 nights, Saturday and Monday night. And I love it. This team was not as bad of a ball club as they were last year in the daytime. Last year they just forgot how to play baseball. When the sun was up, they were literal vampires out there. And the stats backed it up. It wasn't just a fluke. Some of it was they had bad pitchers like Ian Anderson or Jake Odorizzi that would give up 7 runs and the offense just couldn't catch up. That was part of it. But the stats showed they just were not a great team in the daytime last year. I don't know why, but that's just how the case was. And it continued on into the playoffs. They only got one night game. It was a game they won, and it wasn't even supposed to be a night game. It was a rain delay for like 2.5 hours. Kyle Wright goes out and shoves, the only good starting pitching performance we got out of the entirety of the series, and we won the game. So hopefully, you see more of that tomorrow night in Truist Park. You got to go out and punch him in the throat and make use of home field. Let's talk about this game 1 starting pitching matchup, Mr. Neal. You got the 20-game winner, Spencer Strider, 4-0 against the Phillies this year, of course, coming off the clunker performance in Philadelphia last year. So a lot of chances to right some wrongs. The Phillies have an opportunity to show it wasn't a fluke of Strider being rocked in the playoffs, but simultaneously, the Braves have a way to say, hey, you know what? He's now 5-0, including the postseason against you guys this year. He dominated you. We're ahead in the series. How you like them apples? Along for Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez is a good pitcher. He is the third pitcher in that rotation behind Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, who we will see in games 2 and 3. And Micah, you're probably wondering why the Phillies aren't lining up with Zach Wheeler game 1. It's just because they played in the wild card series. He'd be on 3-day rest tomorrow if they pitched him. I would love to see Zach Wheeler on 3-day rest, but I don't think the Phillies are dumb enough to do that, which they're not. They're going to put him on game 2 2 nights from now, get him on full rest. We'll see Aaron Nola, who's a better pitcher at home for game 3 up in Philadelphia. So we're going to see Ranger Suarez tomorrow afternoon, the lefty who had some decent success versus the Braves last year. I'm not quite sure if we faced him maybe once this year in our 13 matchups with the Phillies. But again, all that goes out the window. It's a clean slate. The Braves are currently sitting at 0-0. Acuna's sitting at 0 home runs, 0 steals. Everything resets. What you did in the regular season now doesn't matter for the next month. So the Braves just got to go out there and play like it. So, basically hearing this game 1 pitching matchup, knowing that it's neither of the Phillies aces out there, you got to be able to use your home field. How are you feeling going into tomorrow's game, and what do you want to expect to see from your Atlanta Braves?
Just talking about the pitching, I have full confidence in Spencer Strider. He had 281 strikeouts this year, and I'm expecting him to keep it up in the postseason. He like you said earlier, this is like a revenge series against the Phillies, and we're looking to come out victorious in this one. The offense got to get rolling. We got to be able to put points up. The pitching can't leave the offense just scoring. We can't be matching points. We got to keep the Phillies off the board. Keep them low. If they get on the board, keep them low in points. But I'm expecting a way better series than we had last year.
You're expecting a what?
A way better series that we had last year.
So I'm looking at Ranger Suarez's stats on the year, and he's coming off a not so great performance to end the year versus the Pittsburgh Pirates. Last pitch on September 27th, so he's got plenty of rest. Maybe that'll help him. But in that performance against the Pittsburgh Pirates at home, he goes 4 2/3 innings pitched, allowing 9 hits and 6 earned runs, 2 walks to 4 strikeouts. Did get up to 90 pitches, but his ERA inflated from 3.89 to 4.18 on the year. Definitely not as good of a year for Ranger this year as it was in the past season. I was kind of thinking we might see Taijuan Walker or Christopher Sanchez instead of Ranger in this moment because you haven't really heard a lot of his name this year. But maybe that shows the Phillies do have a lot of trust in him still, and I think that extra rest will do well for him. Of course, on the year he does end up finishing with a over 22 games started, a 4-6 record. So maybe the offense has been great behind him. If you're only getting 4 wins and 22 starts with a 4.18 ERA, 125 innings pitched on the nose, 119 strikeouts, and a 1.42 whip. So he is prone to giving up base runners. And we saw that last year, game 1 against the Braves. He goes 3 2/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run. He allowed 8 base runners. The Braves only got in 1 of them, and it was via Travis d'Arnaud solo home run. So if you're the Braves tomorrow, you have to be able to capitalize and get in front early. You get in front, you play from ahead. It not only sets the tone for that game, it sets the tone for the entirety of the series. This is not a best of 7. This is a best of 5. Tomorrow, especially with your ace, Spencer Strider on the mound, is a crucial game to try to win this series. And you mentioned, your confidence in Spencer Strider, and as much as I want to agree, his last 2 starts have not been great whatsoever. He's coming off back-to-back, I wouldn't say clunkers, but below average starts against a 71 win last place Washington Nationals team. His the second last game of the year, he goes 5 innings of 3 earned, give up 3 in the first inning, ends up kicking the trash can down the steps of the dugout. Comes back and is able to rally for 4 scoreless, but you just cannot start a game like that. If he's doing this against a 70-win club, how am I expecting him to just flip it on a dime against a 90-win club tomorrow in the Philadelphia Phillies? So, looking at the season, a pretty good year for Spencer Strider with the 2.8 FIP, the lowest in the major leagues. In 32 games started, a 20-5 record, 3.86 ERA, 186.2 innings pitched, 281 strikeouts, as Micah said earlier, with a whip of 1.09. But I mean, looking at his last 7 games, he's got a 4.91 ERA on the year in those games and 41 innings pitched, with a whip of 1.14, 22 earned runs, 12 walks. It has not been the greatest for the Strider man as of recently, and I think it's safe to be a little worried. The Phillies, now this is going to be the 3rd time seeing him in a span of 3 weeks. He pitched against them in Philadelphia on September 13th, and then again at home on the 19th. So this will be round 3 in less than a month. Eventually, against a really good lineup like the Phillies, you expect them to be able to find success. They did last year, and I'm guessing Strider will be a little bit better this year, not having an oblique throwing 94 down the middle. But I do expect Strider to give up a couple runs tomorrow. I do. And the Braves offense, the historical one it is going to have his back. They really are. Because last year they did not have Max Frieds in game 1, and we'll get to him in a minute. But I mean, just looking at his most 2 recent performances, he comes into Washington, goes 5 2/3 innings, gives up 4 earned runs, ends up leaving 2 guys on base. The Braves do end up winning that game, but that's against a 70-win last-place team. So if those are your tune-up starts, what am I expecting you to do against a playoff 90-win team? Again, last Saturday, 5 innings, 3 earned, ends up giving up all 3 in the first inning. The biggest thing I'm afraid of, Micah, with Strider tomorrow is he has been dominant pretty much the entirety of the season. But every dominant start has come with that 1 bad inning. And you have to find a way to limit the damage in that bad inning. This dude has given up I don't know how many 3-run home runs this year. We'll have 5 scoreless. He's dominating. Boom. 3-run home run, and the ERA is inflated, and the score is just like that, a lot closer. That cannot happen tomorrow. You could not be giving up 3-run homers in the playoffs, especially game 1 at home. You just can't. And he did that last game. His last start against Philly, against Bryce Harper, he was a pitch away from being 7 scoreless. Gives up a 3-run tank. Base was open. And the next bat was Castellanos flying out on 1 pitch. And that's another thing. Like, they have to work around Bryce Harper. They have to. Don't let him beat you. Let whoever's behind Harper beat you. And that's why I may be coming off across a little pessimistic, and you tell me if I am. But I don't know, man. When it comes to Atlanta sports, it's not always the greatest thing to think positive, is it?
No, you get your hopes up too much. That's how you get crushed. But like you said, you can't start any game really, but especially a postseason game, giving up giving up points like that, especially against a
runs
team.
like that.
Yeah, especially against a team that seen that they could beat you in the previous season, and they're coming off a series against the Marlins where they have momentum, and they're looking to carry it over into this series. But like you said, Strider has to come out and be dominant, keep them off the board, and our offense has to pick them up.
I mean, yeah, our record against the Phillies this year, I believe, was 8-5 in 13 matchups. But last year, I want to say it was like 12-7. We played them even more last year. They went to a more balanced format starting this year in the major leagues, which I did like. But point blank is what happened in the regular season. The win loss does not matter. But I can say, even though the Braves did go 8-5 against the Phillies in these games, every single one of them were close. Maybe the Braves had one blowout, the Phillies had one blowout the other way. Every game in these matchups were all close. The Braves have a historical lineup. The Phillies is right there. This is a really good lineup, and everybody is a tough out. Anybody can hurt you. The rotation with Wheeler and Nola has, and we'll pair Ranger Suarez to a healthy Charlie Morton. That 1-2-3 can go, with our 1-2-3 as ease. Our bullpen has issues, so does theirs. Like these teams are a lot closer than people give them credit for. And so I really think that this is the worst possible first draw for the Braves. And part of it is it's a 5-game series. If we were playing anybody else in a 5-game series, I'm probably expecting the Braves to come out and handle business and maybe even have the ability to drop the game at home. And I have confidence that they'll go in and still win in 4 or 5 games. Even if we're playing the Phillies in a best of 7, I think this team has enough depth to be able to beat anybody in a best of 7. But in a short series, when you've been sitting around for a little bit, it makes me just a little bit more worried. And Twitter has gotten on my ASS about that the last couple months. But I guess we'll see who's right and who's wrong starting tomorrow afternoon. But after game 1, there's a Falcons football game to be played that next Sunday. The day after, we're right back on the baseball diamond. And this one is Zach Wheeler on the mound, the Dallas, Georgia Dallas, Georgia high school alumni, on the bump against the LA boy and Max Fried. Yeah, man, Max Fried is not pitched as well in almost 3 weeks now. He had some blister issues in his last start. And I think they discussed how it was probably going to be his last start of the regular season anyway, but they had to make sure his blister was healed during the scrimmage games. The other day he pitched with a Band-Aid, and everybody said he was okay. But I don't know, man. Like, just even last year, he came in missing a couple weeks going into that start versus the Phillies, and they just lit him up in that game 1 start. So many 2-out, 2-strike hits where Bryce, Max Fried didn't even have a chance in that ball game. He let the Braves down. And he's going up a very tough cookie in the form of Zach Wheeler, who, as you said, looked dominant the other night against the Miami Marlins, game 1 at the bank. The 33-year-old ends his season with a 13-6 record, 3.61 ERA, 192 innings pitched, 212 strikeouts, and a WHIP of 1.8 or 1.08. He was born in Smyrna, Georgia, went to East Paulding High School, the 6th overall pick back in 2009. Really good player. Really good player. A lot of respect to them. And for him and Aaron Nola, like I've seen the Braves dominate Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, but there's also been games where Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler dominate us. You just never have any idea how it's going to play out. So for me, it's just you really got to go take game 1. That way you at least have the ability to drop this game if Zach Wheeler does drop his nuts in our face and Max Fried's not quite himself. But yeah, I mean, you gave your keys to what Strider has to do in game 1. Assuming we get a win, what does Max Fried have to do to continue that in game 2?
I mean, of course, Freed missed a lot of the season with injuries. He only played 14 games, had 77 innings pitched. But if Max is able to come out and be the ace that we know he is and can be, that would take a whole bunch of stress and worry away from us. But given that he hasn't played much of the season and there could be rust. That's where a little bit of the worrying comes in. And but to answer your question, like I said, if he could come out and be that ace that we know he can be, um the Braves should be able to come out with a win in that game, and that's what I'm hoping for.
And to counter that, let's say the Braves do heartbreakingly drop game one tomorrow afternoon. What does Max Fried have to do differently to know the team really needs him to put him on his back and send us to Philadelphia in an even series?
What was the question?
Let's say we lost game one.
Mm-hmm.
What does Max Fried have to do differently in regards to what Strider did in game one, knowing that the team has to be put on his back so we get to Philadelphia at an even series?
I mean, Free just has to come out and be poised, be like I said, be the pitcher that we know he can be. Keep Philly off the board. Don't give them any type of momentum. Letting them get get on the bases. Like we need his best game of the season. Even though like you said, season is over. We at 0-0, but we need that ace Max Free in this series and for the entirety of the playoffs.
Yeah, if the Braves don't win this series, point blank, it's going to come down to how good Max Fried and Spencer Strider are. Like, the offense is going to do just enough. I already know the bullpen's going to have a little bit of issue. Like, those are things we can count on. What we don't know is how good Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola will be, combined with how good Max Fried and Spencer Strider will be. And our guys have to outdo their guys. And if you do that, you have a really good chance to win the series, because last year they just flat out didn't. They didn't. And that has to change this year. Like, a lot of people are, already talking about the NLCS and possible. Like, I'm nowhere near there. I'm one game at a time. This is a very formidable opponent. We slept walked on them last year, and they beat the crap out of us. We cannot take the Phillies lightly. One game at a time, and don't even think about LA or Arizona or even what's going on in the American League. We got to focus on beating a very good rival of ours, the Philadelphia Phillies, because, Micah, just at the end of the day, I don't think I can take losing to them a second year in a row. I don't think I can take that. I've already dealt with enough Hoskins bat slam gifts and arguments and saying that we own you guys, even though granted they didn't end up winning the World Series in their division series run. We did in the year prior, but it's a new year, and if we can beat them, I don't really think there's a lot of teams that are in our way, and I'll be a lot more confident. Crap talking to Phillies fans from here on out. But anything else regarding pitching matchups that you would like to make a point on?
I believe he was able to cover it all for game two.
All right, Micah. So we talked about the first two pitching matchups that are at home at 6:07 p.m. at Truist Park, home of the 2021 World Series champion Atlanta Braves, the six-time consecutive National League East Division champion Atlanta Braves. Point blank is the fans have showed out for them these last couple of years. They've been the hottest ticket in town, hottest team in town. People love them. Braves country spawns everywhere.
Yep.
But the Phillies have a great fan base of their own, and they come out of the woodwork for the playoffs. Point blank is I didn't see a lot of Philly fans at their games for most of the regular season. You flash back to the other night of the wild card series, and all the casual Sixers and Eagle fans just decided to show up for the Phillies game too. And I'm not saying that environment wasn't crazy, but what I am saying is that the Braves have outsold them every year since 2015 in attendance and in merchandise sold. We definitely have a bigger fan base, regardless of what they want to think. But in the playoffs, it's another animal. Just think of it, Game 7 for the Sixers or the Eagles in the playoffs. That's how the Phillies games are up in the bank. And so for the Braves, especially Micah, we have the best we did have the best record in the major leagues. We finished with the best record in the major leagues. Every round that the Braves were, knock on wood, to advance, they would have home field, regardless of any opponent. My point is, if you have that, you want to use your home field advantage. That's the reason you won 104 games. So if you end up losing one of these 2 games at home, you basically handed home field to the Phillies and said, here's our 104 wins in control of the series. So how impactful is home field advantage in securing this short series advancement?
I mean, in any sport, really, you have to take care of home field advantage. I don't care how many games you won in the regular season, how many games you lost in the regular season. Anytime you're at home, you have to take care of that. Um, like I don't care what anybody says. Fans play a huge part in a team's success. If you have five fans in the stands compared to 50,000, you the feeling, the momentum, and the juice from the fans, the hype, it's gonna cause the players to play better. And um, I personally would say the Braves have one of, if not the best, fan base, the best game experience, the best fans in games, in the league. And just as I say that, Philly has in all of their sports has great fans too, and they know how to support their teams and back them up. But to answer the question, we have to take care of home field advantage. And like you said earlier, we did not do that last season. We seen how much that hurt us, and it's just crucial to win these 2 games at home, and we cannot go to Philly down, or we can't go to Philly tied.
I mean, if you go to Philly 0-2, your season's over. You're not
Hmm.
winning. Like you've hung up your cleats, and that can't happen. 1-1, you can live with it. Like, okay, it's still a 2 out of 3, but all of a sudden you got to go to Philly, and they have 2 of those 3 games, so now they have home field advantage. And I mean, I'll give you a stat here, Micah. The Braves won the 2021 World Series. They played 8 games at home in that playoff run. How many of those 8 games do you think they won?
Don't even have a guess.
7. 7. They lost the last game. They won their first 7 games of the playoffs at home. It's amazing how it works out for you. It's amazing. They ended up going 7-1 on the road. I think they won a game over 500 on the road. So the old adage added up. They protected home field. They won the home games. They split on the road, and you won the World Series. You go 1-1 up in Milwaukee, 1-2 out in LA. Granted, game 3 it was a little bit of whoops. Cody Bellinger had some antics with us. They end up finding it a way to go 2-1 in Houston, securing game 6. But they end up going 500 on the road, handling business, but they do not lose a game at home until Halloween. And it was game 5 that would end up winning the World Series. He scored 6 runs in that game. Just unfortunate you had to throw out the famous TikToker, Tucker Davidson, who's better at pitching, better at TikToking than pitching. Sorry to Tucker if you're listening. Just I like to keep it a buck around here. But point blank is, like, they were great at home in the 2021 run. You look at last year, you split. 2019, you split. You come back for game 5 against the Cardinals and you drop it. 2020, there really weren't any home games. I guess you had that wild card series against the Reds where they did win. They didn't end up sweeping those 2 games, but no fans were there, and the Reds offense didn't score a run. That's not happening. The Phillies are not going in 2 straight games of not scoring a run. So I'm not so sure what'll play out, but we have to find a way to fly to Philly up 2-0, knowing you can come back and still win the series, or you just have to get one. You just have to get one because we know how rowdy that crowd is going to be, and that brings me into our point of who's going to start game 3, because it's the news is Kyle Wright and Jesse Chavez are not going to be on the playoff roster. I think we had a nugget up here of it, but I don't see it. But that is official from Mark Bowman and from David O'Brien, from Justin Ziscano, from all the beat writers. Neither of them will be on the playoff roster, and I think they pitched well enough down the stretch to earn that playoff roster. And it makes me a little upset, Micah, because we had these conversations around the All-Star break about bringing guys back and not trading for others because of injured guys who had coming back. We didn't trade for certain people at the trade deadline because we knew Max Reed was coming back. Kyle Wright was coming back. Nick Anderson was coming back. Dylan Lee was coming back. Jesse Chavez was coming back. And others. Jesse Chavez didn't make the playoff roster. Kyle Wright didn't make the playoff roster. Dylan Lee came back for a total of 3 games, re-injured himself. Nick Anderson hasn't come back. Kyle Wright didn't make the playoff roster and didn't look great until recently. And then you have Max Reed, the lone guy who made the playoff roster and is dealing with blisters. You see why Dylan and I were pounding the table on previous episodes to bring in more than enough pitching? Because he and I said we knew that guys were coming back, but you can't just expect the injury bug to go away.
I mean, hindsight is always 2020. We like y'all said it before then that we needed more pitching, and here we are entering the playoffs, and with the injury luck we've had, and we're over here looking without Wright and Chavez out there. It's like we should have went out and got more pitching, like y'all said, but they failed to do that, and we like the show after we was wondering if Alex knew something we didn't. But here we are, like I said, and we're without both of them, and the injury luck did not
Only
it
one of
didn't
those
get
6
better.
guys are going to be on
Yeah.
the playoff roster. And I'm the pessimistic one that's always wrong. But, here we are with not enough pitching, and none of those guys came back. But, toot toot, my own horn.
I mean,
Go ahead.
like y'all could go back to that episode. Blake and Dylan was saying we need more pitching, we need more pitching, we need to trade for more pitching, more pitchers, and they failed to do that. And we're looking here like um what's gonna happen, and hopefully this doesn't come back to bite us to where we lose because we don't have the pitching that Blake and Dylan was wanting. And pitching is you can't do much without good pitching in the MLB.
The
And
one,
so there you go ahead. You go ahead.
yeah, the one good pitcher they added was Pierce Johnson. That was a steal from the Rockies, and he's been phenomenal. The Brad Hand was the other bullpen move, ironically, also from the Colorado Rockies. That Dylan and I were like, okay, like that works with us. We knew we needed a lefty because AJ Minter was still coming back from injury. So yes, he's also one that made the full comeback. But AJ Minter is not your typical left-handed reliever or left-handed pitcher in general, Micah. He's a reverse split guy, so he is better throwing to right-handers than he is left-handers, and that's not usually the case. Usually, right-handers are better against righties, and lefties are usually a lot better lefty-lefty than you are righty-righty. Lefty-lefty matchups are harder than righty-righty. And so
Hmm.
AJ Minter is not your typical lefty guy. He's your 8th inning guy. He's your 7th inning guy. He's going to face the meat of the order in the 7th or the 8th inning, setting it up for the closer. That's AJ Minter's role. He's not your typical lefty versus lefty matchup. Brad Hand can be, but the issue with him is, down the stretch he has not gotten his lefty matchups. He's ended up walking him, letting them get singles the other way. And because of the 3-batter minimum, for those that don't know, you can't take out a pitcher until they face 3 batters. You can't intentionally walk them. You have to face 3 of them. Because of that, if he doesn't take care of his lefty matchups that he gets brought into the game for, you didn't do your job. And that's where Dylan Lee would have came in nicely. He just couldn't come back to form. He was having a great season before the dead arm hit him in like mid-May, and we haven't seen him much since then. He came back a couple times and was also giving up lefty jacks. And I'm just like, okay, dude, like, what are you doing here? But like for Pierce Johnson has been, for the most part, phenomenal. You're going to see him in a lot of 6th innings or 7th innings, maybe even 8th innings on occasions. He's going to pitch some high leverage innings for the Braves this round and hopefully longer. For Brad Hand, the other pitcher that we did acquire via trade, you just hope that he comes in and handles his job, because he's going to come in 5th inning, 6th inning, and get a chance at a lefty matchup with 2 outs. And if he doesn't end up doing his job, Man, like he is literal batting practice for right-handers. So Snit better be careful with Brad Hand out of the playoffs, and that was our second biggest addition. Yanni Chirinos, that was a waiver claim from the Rays. He was literal batting practice. Had like an ERA of like 7+, absolutely awful, kind of what we expected. And same thing goes for, Nicky Lopez wasn't even a pitcher. He had 2 scoreless innings as a pitcher, so that was kind of cool. But the only 2 pitchers we got at the deadline were Pierce Johnson, who has been great. I'll give him flowers. And Brad Hand, who just hasn't been great down the stretch, and I don't trust in the scenarios he's going to be put in. And that was it. We didn't get a single starter, and Dylan and I hammered it home. Bryce Elder's luck is going to run out. Someone is not going to make the roster because they get hurt. That was Charlie Morton. We're having to bank it all on Max Fried and Spencer Strider again. It just didn't work last year. It didn't. And Braves Twitter hates me for being a pessimist. I think a little bit is the Falcons fandom in me still haunts me. The Falcons have trained me and you, Micah, and the Hawks even on some occasions, that everything that can go wrong will. I think that's part of the reason we think so negatively. But man, I don't trust the pitching. I don't trust the middle relief. I don't trust the back half of the rotation. It's really like Iggy has to be perfect, AJ Minter has to be perfect, and Strider and Max have to shove on every occasion. But yeah, what were you saying, beforehand?
I mean, just to answer the question about who starts with Game 3, um, the other 2 pitchers we have available on the roster is Bryce Elder and Smith Shaver, and like you said, Bryce Elder he started the season in the minors and found his way to the All-Star team, and he had a great first half of the season, and as you mentioned, his luck felt it fell off, and his second half wasn't what we would have wanted it to be, and with Smith Shaver, as we're going to talk about this later in the show with the scrimmages, but Blake was telling me before the show that he was looking good in the scrimmages. So it's really gonna come down to who Snit thinks is ready for Game 3, and I just hope whoever he chooses is ready, and they're poised and confident and gonna come out, and hopefully we're able to go for the sweep and get the sweep.
Yeah, I do have a point to make about AJ Smith-Shawver, but to look at like Bryce Elder's numbers, like you did mention, he did come out of nowhere, and he was a huge help to the rotation throughout the early months of the year when we lost Kyle Wright, when we lost Max Fried, when we lost others that were like, what in the world's going on with this rotation? He was a stable horse to that. Had a April ERA of 2.17. Basically only gave up 1 run in his first 3 innings or his first 3 games of work. And had a dominant April with a 2.17 ERA in the month. I know it's not the greatest stat, but just what's in front of me here on the MLB statistic page. Had an elite May, something that you would love to see a lot of prime pitchers have. Posted a 1.72 ERA in the month of May. Absolutely dominant. And continued it for the most part through the month of June. Kind of came back to the level of Major League pitching, but still pitched to a 3.56 ERA in the month. But around the All-Star break is where things started to change. You see him go with a 5.96 ERA in the month of July, 4.88 in the month of August, and a 5.68 ERA in the month of September, including his last 2 starts, 3.2 innings pitched, 4 earned runs with 5 walks and no strikeouts to these Philadelphia Phillies. And a fighting Cubs team went 3 2/3 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 4 walks to only 2 strikeouts. He's a guy that doesn't have a lot of swing and miss stuff, that relies a lot on the double play ball, and is still a very young pitcher. Has not pitched a lot at the level. Has not pitched this many innings in a season before at the major leagues. Doesn't have a lot of high velocity. When you throw 91 miles an hour, it's kind of hard to strike people out, and he failed to have that and that ability in the second half. Still had a great year, and I think that he can come back next year and improve on it. But just the performances he was having were not sustainable, and we're seeing that, and it really really sucks because he was an all-star. He was a rookie that just did absolutely phenomenal things for us. Was still, I think, the second or third round pick in the same draft. We got Jared Schuster and Spencer Strider, but yeah, man, just not the second half you want to see. And I don't think he starts game 3. I the only way I'm starting Bryce Elder is if we do go up 2-0. So in this world, I'm hoping we are up 2-0, but that's like the only conversation I'm having about starting Bryce Elder in the playoffs. You mentioned Smith Shawver, and I think you said that he would be your starter for game 3. Would you want to tell me why?
I mean, like you said, bringing up how Bryce Elder's second half of the season went, my confidence isn't too big, too strong in him right now, and depending on how the 2 games before it go, you like right now we don't know what will happen if we're tied at 1-1 or if we're up 2-0. Only ones I'm going to consider at this point. If it's one of those, you have 2 options you could go with. Um, but like I want the best chance to win every night, and at this point right now, I don't know if Elder gives us the best chance to win, especially in Philadelphia. With their fans. And like I said, fans have an impact on games and how loud and rowdy they are. I don't know if I would put Elder out there in Philadelphia. I don't think he gives us the best chance to win at this point.
So tell me why it's Shawver on the flip.
I mean, it's not my personal my choice and reasoning isn't really giving it saying because like because of Shaver is rather it's I don't because I don't trust Elder, and like I said, I want the best chance to win, and I just don't think Elder gives us that right now.
I mean, that's fair enough to think that AJ Smith-Shawver, I think, is, him and Vaughn Grissom are around, which we'll talk about Grissom here in just a second. I think Vaughn Grissom and him are the top 2 prospects in this Brave system going into next year. Maybe put Jared Schuster at number 3. Um, but the thing with Shawver, like, he has the Spencer Strider repertoire stuff. I think this guy can be really good within like 2 years. He's got the elite fastball. He's got the off speed to move off of it. He can miss bats. But the thing, I mean, we mentioned the Philly crowd a couple times now. You graduated high school in the class of 2023. I graduated high school in the class of 2022. AJ Smith-Shawver graduated high school in the class of 2021. He is a year older than me and 2 years older than you, born November 20th, 2002. I don't know if I'm ready to throw him into the flames. He's probably our best choice. I understand that. But I don't know if he's seen anything like this. I really don't. I'm a little afraid for that. Pitched to only 6 games. I think he had 1 blow up start. But in his most recent game at the end of the year, looking at his stats, it goes 3 2/3 innings, 1 earned run against Chicago through like 64 pitches. Was pretty good in that outing. 5 innings, 3 against Milwaukee to end July. Mostly you saw him pitch in June. His first 4 outings was pretty much unhittable. And so I think he would be my choice, Micah, but I'm going to throw in a wrinkle. I don't think you put him in the first inning. And this is where the Jesse Chavez conversation comes back. Because if Jesse Chavez was on this playoff roster, I'm starting Jesse Chavez in the first inning as an opener. Not your true starter, as an opener. The veteran who has the playoff experience, who I trust to limit damage and settle the crowd down. And I guess in this scenario, we'll say Joe Jimenez. We're going to throw one of our righty relievers out there. I maybe put Joe Jimenez, definitely not Michael Tonkin. At that point, just start AJ Smith-Shawver. I have no idea why Tonkin's on this roster over a guy like Kyle Wright or Jesse Chavez. I don't know. The decisions today are way over my head, and I'm just like, okay, interesting. But in this perfect world, I'm starting Jesse Chavez in this game 3, but we'll say it's Joe Jimenez, and I'm having him throw this first inning, letting him face Bryce Harper, letting him face Trey Turner, letting him face Kyle Schwarber, and just settle that crowd. And then bottom of the second inning, you send out AJ Smith-Shawver like it's the first inning. So you settle that crowd. You let him miss that heart of the order, the top of the order for the very first time through. And hopefully by bottom of the second inning, the Braves are up, let's say 2-0. Or it's 2-1. And all of a sudden, he's coming in with a little bit of a crowd that's not as quite into it. And he's able to go to work as it normally is with the momentum on his side. You put him in there bottom of the first inning, a guy who's 20 years old, never experienced anything like this. He could be shanking his pitches in the dirt, walking guys, giving up runs, and I just think it could spiral on you quickly. And so for me, I'm throwing Smith-Shawver in game 3, especially if it's a 1-1 series, probably even if it is a 2-0 series, but I'm throwing him out there in the second inning, and I'm letting one of our relievers open and hopefully get a clean first. How do you like that idea?
I I, I like it. I've like you said, I'm new to baseball, so I've never heard of something like that. But yeah, I like the idea to throw the veteran out there to quiet the crowd. But like I was saying a little earlier with
Well, not only do they quiet the crowd, they have a chance to see Bryce Harper and Trey Turner and some of these Braves
yeah.
killers and not have the 20-year-old go out there and facing them,
Hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and like I was saying with Max Free earlier in the show, um, if they do have Smith Shawver out in the first inning, I just want to see him stay poised and confident and show he believes in his and the work he's put in and that he show us that he knows he is a player that can go out there in any atmosphere, any field, and play 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 up to his expectations or exceed his expectations. And like I say this with every player. I believe in them, and I just hope they go out there and show that they show and represent that he's a Braves player. And like we said, if it's 2-0, you go out there, go for the sweep. If it's 1-1, go out there and bring it back home where we can end the series in front of our crowd.
And to answer your question, you said you hadn't really heard a lot of things like that. It's more common in the postseason, but really who started it was the Tampa Bay Rays a couple years ago. When they got that new manager, they replaced Joe Madden with Kevin Cash, and you know how they are with all their bullpen arms. They're a factory down there with how they do things. And it's ironic. Like they got swept in the postseason this year because their offense just didn't show up. But the pitching was able to do just enough to keep them in those games. They were, doing things like that where they looked at the analytics and they looked at some of their young pitchers and they're like, well, they're better coming in the second inning. So us having them miss these potential threats in the first inning, taking the crowd out of things, going to someone who analytically, kind of like think of like Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, shows that gives us a better chance to get out of this first inning, like a veteran who's been there before, like a Jesse Chavez, like hell, anybody from the bullpen. It'll probably be someone like a Joe Jimenez, Jesse Chavez, but allow them to come out there and throw that first inning. And once it's clean, hopefully the Braves are ahead with momentum, and you have a better chance for him seeing the middle of the lineup instead of having to start up. And just because he is 20 years old, he's a year older than us. I would be scared out there. He only started throwing a couple of years ago. I know he's gonna be a little scared out there at the end of the day. So you just got to try to limit that, and that's where I have the idea of opening with a reliever. We'll say Joe Jimenez because there's no Jesse Chavez, and you throw Shawver out there in that second inning after hopefully the Braves are leading and Joe Jimenez throws a clean first inning. If he doesn't, then whoops, you messed up the whole plan. But yeah, anything else you'd like to add regarding the game 3 starting situation as they are both to be determined? We can't assume it'll be Aaron Nola for the Phillies in game 3, who is a much better pitcher at home. Braves have seen him a lot over the years, but we don't know who our pitcher is. Anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, like I said, I just want to see however Snick goes about it. I just want to see Smith Shawver, or if he does go with Bryce Elder, I want to see him go out there confident in in their game and remain and stay poised against a tough Philly crowd and Philly team.
I like the way you word that. I guess we'll move right into the next topic here. Running a little long, so sorry about that, guys. But just a lot of true passion. I think is flowing. With our words this episode. A guy that was supposed to make the roster at the beginning of the year. Was a top prospect for us last year. Had a couple stints in the major leagues this year via injury. And with the bat wasn't terrible at times. The defense was as bad as we thought it would be with Grissom. Does Vaughn Grissom in your world, it's still a 26-man roster. There is bench players. Does Vaughn Grissom make this playoff roster for you?
I mean, I think he has to given all the things that can go wrong in a game in a series and you hope everyone stays healthy and like you say knock on wood. We want everyone to stay healthy, but in the event that doesn't happen, we want to have somebody that's able to come in and be able to play. And we've seen Vaughn Grissom go out there and he's able to he's able to play, and he has the potential. We know he has it in him, and like we said, it's just depth, and I would feel much more comfortable having him on the roster in the event that something goes wrong. Knock on wood.
Well, I don't think the plans for him are for him to be a backup, like emergency infielder. I think if that's the case, you go to Nicky Lopez, which was the other of the three trades. And Nicky Lopez was actually great in the times he did play. So like if there's a game where Austin Riley gets cut, that has to come out, or Ozzy Albies jams a pinky going sliding new base, something along that sort. Nicky Lopez is going to go in and fill that position. I don't think the Braves want any of ideas of having to see Vaughn Grissom out there playing shortstop or any defensive position in the playoffs. I think there's a world where the Braves, as a 26-man roster, I think they'll probably end up carrying. Originally, I was thinking they'd go 13 pitchers and 13 position players. You'd have your 9 hitters, like 4 off the bench. You'd have, Pilar and Murphy, or Pilar and Travis, as always, if you're facing a righty. With Nicky Lopez, and I thought that'd leave a last spot for like Forrest Wall as like a base stealer, or Sam Hilliard if he's healthy as like a defensive replacement outfielder / lefty. But if they're going 14 position players, it opens the door for Vaughn Grissom a little bit, because you can assume the everyday lineup. It's going to be Eddie in left, Michael in center, Ronald in right, Riley, Arcia, Ozzy, Matt, Murphy with Azuna DHing. And so if there's 5 players on the bench, you can assume Pilar is going to make it. He's going to hit against lefties. He's going to come in late innings for defense. Darnell will maybe start like one time a series or throw a couple late innings if you end up having a pinch run for Murphy. Nicky Lopez is that utility guy. And that leaves room for like a Forrest Wall base stealer who's got crazy speed, or Sam Hilliard if they decide to go in a different direction, who is healthy now. And it gives room for Vaughn Grissom. And for Vaughn Grissom, he's a guy whose bat is always going to play. And I think there'll be some games where, let's say, Eddie Rosario is hitless, and he's not the normal playoff Eddie Rosario, and a lefty comes out of the bullpen. I think that's a spot where you go to Vaughn Grissom to pinch hit. And hopefully he gets the job done, and you go get Pilar to play the outfield right afterwards. Or there's a game where maybe Pilar starts, and you bring in Eddie once the bullpen comes in. And if somebody like Jose Alvarado is lurking out of the Phillies bullpen, that's where you go to, Vaughn Grissom, and you can put, Sam Hilliard / Forrest Wall right back out there. So I really do think there is a spot for him. He can even pinch hit for, I don't know, Azuna, because he has the potential to play DH. But the way Azuna's been hitting the ball the last 2 weeks, he's someone I'm not really worried at all about going into the playoffs. He is hitting the ball better than he ever has. But I think to answer the question, I do think he makes the roster. And I think that's the way that'll use him. Do you have any rebuttals?
Nah, like Like it makes sense with having his having him out there with pinch hitting, and it makes sense to keep him off the field when it comes to defense. So I agree with what you said, and we both came to where we said he should make the roster.
So we'll see if we are right. Quick here, like 60 seconds. Do you think there'll be any like major lineup changes? I just mentioned the 9 guys who will start, your average game against a righty. I could see a world where Pilar starts tomorrow since it is a lefty and Ranger Suarez on the mound. But assuming it's a righty and Eddie Rosario's in right field, any changes you would like to see within the lineup or any, somebody you'd like to see benched, if at all?
Um, I don't think there should be any. I don't see any changes coming, but outside of like what you said, they might have a change with the left field or DH. But as a in my opinion right now, I don't think the lineup needs to be changed any different than how it was end of the season.
I mean, yeah, you'll probably see Kevin Pillar start versus lefties, and you'll see Eddie Rosario versus righties. So most games they'll probably end up playing a good chunk of both games. So that's a platoon you can expect. Murphy will probably do 75% of the catching, and Darnell will maybe get a start a series. At least I'm just focusing on the NLDS in this factor. Um, DH, I don't really think there's a world where Azuna gets pinch hit. Only unless he's like 0 for his last 10, then maybe you see Vaughn Grissom slide in there, but that's even a big if. Um, but I think the lineup movement is a different conversation. Like I could see a world where they move Michael Harris up a little bit from the 9 hole, even though he's been great down there. I could see maybe Orlando Arcia getting moved back to the 9 hole, and I tell you why. Anybody who hits in the 9 hole is automatically going to become better. It's because they're hitting in front of Ronald Acuna Jr. And the pitchers are going to be giving them things to hit because they want to get through them quickly. They don't want to waste bullets. And the Braves have a very aggressive offense. They can hit singles. They don't strike out a lot. Anybody can hit a homer. So anybody that hits the 9 hole is automatically going to improve because Ronald Acuna Jr. is right behind him, and they're going to be getting pitches to hit. So I could see a world where I don't think they'll move Murphy all the way down to the 9 hole because they do like that second leadoff speed option, and Michael Harris is a lefty. But I think you can maybe see Arcia and Murphy move down a little bit more than where they were in the regular season. And I think maybe you see guys like Michael Harris or Marcell Ozuna slide up. Because I'll tell you what, Marcell Ozuna and Ozzy Albies have been tearing a cover off the ball the last 2 weeks. So is Ronald Acuna Jr. Like those are 3 guys I'm expecting to have a huge series. Is Acuna, Ozzy, the boys from 2018, and Ozuna, man, he's just – he is the big bear himself right now. Anything he touches is going 470 feet. And that is definitely things I like to see because last year there wasn't any of that. I guess, what is different this year was the Braves inter scrimmages. They played 3 games between each other. Some Stripers players, some of the rosters were a little jumbled in between, a couple injured players that were, coming back just to see how they looked. So, a little bit of mixture between the Stripers and the main squad. I think it was usually about 75-25 favored in the lineups. You would see usually a little bit more major league talent on one side. And think of this as like Falcons training camp, guys. Like the defense won the day, the offense won the day. They had 3 games and the offense won all of them, which is like, ugh, how bad was the pitching? But simultaneously, it's like, okay, the offense looks ready to go this year, which they weren't last year against the Phillies. And I heard that the pitchers weren't trying at 100%, more like 75%. So maybe you can take away a little bit of what the hitters did and expect a little better from the pitchers. I don't know. But point blank is they're not sitting around on their toes like they were last year. They got loose. They all stayed healthy during these practices, which is great, 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 great to hear. No injuries occurred. And they practice situations. They practice, 2 on, 1 out, first and third, 2 outs. They tried different scenarios to get people locked in. Heck, Marcell Ozuna was out there prowling first base a little bit, so that was hilarious to see action of. But yeah, like as I said, like Marcell Ozuna was a shining star in this series. Sean Murphy had a couple homers, which is also great to hear. The dude had a awesome first half, hit 335, an OPS near 1,000, ends up hitting like 160 with a 500 OPS in the second half. I do think part of that is Snicker not playing him every day. Because him and Travis both were just equally bad. for the best catching duo in baseball, they say. Ozzy Albies continues to rake. Pilar with a couple homers. Um, a lot of things that were, great to be heard from in this series. Um, Bryce Elder didn't really do terrible in Thursday's practice, from what I heard. But even a guy like Colin McHugh, who I hope is nowhere near the playoff roster, diced up the other day. Based on everything that you've heard, what were some surprises? And who do you think you can expect a big series from? And who do you think that was on the bubble, earn their way on the roster from these last couple of days of practice?
Well, I loved hearing that the offense was one, like you said, thinking of it like Falcons training camp. The offense won each day, and I loved hearing that because that was something
Pitching
that
does win in the postseason, though. Pitching is what wins in the postseason. But yes, it is good to see they are one.
yeah and Blake said before the show that the pitching wasn't really 100%. Um, but going back to the offense, that I loved hearing that because last year the offense wasn't really there for us in the against the Phillies, and I'm I'm hoping that once we oh my gosh, once the series start, that the offense is able to continue to play how they was playing throughout the season and keep it up, because if the offense isn't playing how we know that this offense is built and how this offense can play, is not going to be a very fun series for the Braves and us Braves fans. So it's going to be very crucial, and I like how they very crucial for the offense to be um, where we know they can be, and I loved this idea. Keeping the team warm instead of sitting out and getting cold, not getting in rhythm. When the Phillies, um, they just came off of a series, and they have momentum. They're coming in. They didn't have no break there. They're not gonna come in rusty. So why should the Braves come in rusty? I love the idea of them doing these scrimmages and staying warm, and I think it's gonna make a difference. Make a difference compared to last year.
Yeah, I agree. No cuts here, but yeah, like rest equals rust. And to see, the chance for us to not be rusty. I mean, hell, even on the other side of the bracket, the Dodgers are doing the same thing. The Dodgers got upset in the NLDS last year to another. They were in the same situation as us. We won 101 games. They won 111 games. They lost to the Padres, who they owned even harder than we owned the Phillies in the regular season, all in 4 games. We split home field and we didn't get it back. We ended up winning 3-4 against us on the road. And they didn't. They're not letting that same thing happen to them this year. They're playing the Diamondbacks, another in-division team. We are playing the same team in the Philadelphia Phillies. But I see that they're hosting in-game scrimmages to keep themselves loose as well. So teams are learning. There's no Yankees on that side of the bracket. The Astros, I'm sure, are doing some sort of thing too, even though they sat around and still swept the Seattle Mariners. So we'll see. But yeah, like, let's talk about this bullpen, man. Like, we already know it's going to give us some issues. That's just how it is. They were third team ERA at some point in the summer. I think they finished the year like 17th or 18th in team ERA. It just all came crashing down. It's not a good bullpen. Like, I don't care what people say. I watch them every night. I see them giving up runs every night. It is not a good bullpen. Joey Jimenez has issues. Brad Hand has issues. AJ Minter has had issues. Raisel Iglesias has issues against the Phillies, specifically the team we have to play and the playoffs. He has some of his worst numbers of his career against the Philadelphia Phillies. Um, our middle relief is absolutely horrid with Kirby Yates. Now you're taking out Jesse Chavez out of the situation. You're going to put a guy like Michael Tonkin back in there. You're short lefties with no Dylan Lee, and of course no Matzek until next year. Like, we can already expect some bumps in the road and some issues from the bullpen, Micah. But like, what's the best case scenario in your opinion that we see, assuming they end up covering 4 or 5 innings a game?
I mean, like I said, like we said earlier in the show, hopefully the offense can pick up the pitching. No matter, like, if the pitcher is having a bad game or a good game, we want the offense to go out there and win the game for us because we have like you said a historical offense. We have hitters 1 through 9. Everyone can like you said hit a home run. Anyone can hit a home run, and um I just hope that the bullpen is able to close out games, and I hope I don't trust them in a situation where it's a tied game going into the ninth inning. Um, but I just hope that the offense is able to pick up the pitching and not put them in positions to where they have to go out there and have their best outing to keep us afloat or to keep us in a game. I just want the offense to go out there and do what we know they can do and be the offense that they are supposed to be um, and helping us win games.
Who are you expecting in that bullpen to be the worst and just break your heart? And simultaneously, who are we expecting? It doesn't have to be Iglesias; it can be another reliever. Who are you expecting to have the best division series? Because that's what we're focused on right now, and just be lights out and you be proud of.
I haven't seen the roster, but is Tonkin on the roster?
Yes, he'll probably will be. That's a cheap answer.
I mean, UX was going to be the worst. um, I would
I
say,
take it
I mean,
taking the
it's
cheap road. Yeah.
my best one is going to be a cheap one too, but I like Iglesias. So oh, sorry, man. I'm gonna ask the same question for you. You gave me the rich answer.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna need a big series out of Pierce Johnson. The best. I think he's gonna come out and twirl it. Whether he's the sixth or seventh inning. Um, because Iglesias' his numbers against the Phillies in his career, especially Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, two guys that are now on the Phillies for the next decade, he has issues with. So I don't think it'll be very fun facing. If my hope is if Iglesias is in, we're going for a save. That's a good thing, but the perfectionist in me is hoping it's more than one run, and that we have a little bit of cushion for him because if it's a one-run game, it could get a little dicey. He blew 2 saves up in Philadelphia just at the end of the year. He has some of his worst career numbers against the team in general, Bryce Harper and Trey Turner. So a little worry there for Iggy. And that's the reason I wouldn't pick him. But I'm going to have to go with Pierce Johnson continuing what he did. I think he's kind of earned that high leverage role more than Joe Jimenez or Kirby Yates right now. And the worst one, I'm gonna just kind of what we talked about earlier. I think it's going to be Brad Hand. I think he's going to come in a lefty scenario, and he's not going to get that guy out, and it's going to get ugly because then he's going to have to face righties, and I don't trust him to get the righties, and yikes, I think he can lead to runs. So that's where I'm at with I think it's going to be ironically the two guys we traded for. I think it's going to be Pierce Johnson and Brad Hand, but you can make an argument for Kirby, you can make the argument for AJ Minter, you can make the argument for anybody, even like if Jesse Chavez was on the roster. Which I'm surprised that Michael Tonkin is on the roster over Jesse Chavez. It just doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not Alex Anthopoulos or Brian Snicker. Anything else regarding this mid heart attack bullpen?
Nope.
Just please be a half of what the night shift was. Please. Now the thing about the night shift was like Will Smith went into the playoffs red hot. He had like 8 straight clean saves to end the year. So like people say, "Oh my God, he magically turned it on." Nah, he was very good going into the stretch. Like he was that guy throughout the month of September into the playoffs. Like he proved that's who he was. For Tyler Matzik, same thing. Like Matzik and Will Smith went into the playoffs on the right foot. And I don't know if I could really say the same about some of the core members of this bullpen recently. Like Kirby Yates ended up blowing a save to the Cubs in the game. We ended up coming back and walking it off. Joey Jimenez gave up runs in his most recent outing. Like some of these guys pitched their way off the roster against the Nationals in the last series. So as much as people want to talk about as the night shift and being legendary luck, like there's behind luck, there's always a path to the analytical way. And that night shift bullpen had dudes doing it, going in on the right foot that I just simultaneously don't see as much as the case this year. Speaking of previous years, we mentioned it already. This is a rematch against the Philadelphia Phillies from last year's National League Division Series. They beat us 3 out of 4. They blitzkrieged us. Third in the National League East. They come in as the 6th seed, the last seed in. They go out and beat the Cardinals, basically ruining their franchise for a couple years. And they come in and they do the same thing to us and the Padres and about won the whole damn thing. What went wrong? I guess we'll start from your opinion, Michael. Like, what went wrong in the 101 win Braves' point of view last year?
I mean, like what didn't go wrong? I mean, between the injuries with the pitching, the health of the team, the offense not being what we expected it to be, it was a lot. And like I was saying with the scrimmages, I'm glad that they was able to go out there and do that this year to prevent the rust and have the players getting warm, getting ready for a series against a team that's coming off of a series that hasn't had no break. And um, I mean, we have Freed is still dealing with minor injury right now, but I'm hoping that he can get through it. And Strider, he isn't dealing with an injury like he was last year. And knock on wood, he's able to stay healthy the entire. Hopefully, he's able to stay healthy the entirety of the postseason. And those are my two biggest things, and I'm hoping that the offense is able to pick it up this year and be that offense, that historical offense that they are, and they play to their full potential this year.
To be honest, I don't think there's much for me to chime in on. I think he pretty much hit all of the everything on its head. I mean, yeah, for Max Fried, like he's dealing with a little bit of issues this year, but he's 8 off the game one guy, so he's like 2 extra days to recover. But last year he just got sick. He got sick as an MFer. He lost like 15 pounds, and then had to go out and throw on a noon game in the middle of like 90-degree Georgia humidity with the flu. That definitely didn't help him. That is for certain. But yeah, man, he was sick as a bug to end that season. Ended up coming out even in that Mets series that ended up clinching the division. He threw 5 really nice innings against the Mets and came out after the 5th inning throwing up in the trash can over and over. And you could see he wanted to go on, but he just ultimately couldn't. Thankfully, in that game, that the night shift of that year, which was McHugh, not this year, Kenley Jansen, not this year, Iglesias and Minter locked it down. But yeah, like you don't really see, of course, knocking on wood metaphorically while doing it. You don't really see a lot of the same injury scares this year. I mean, you already are without Charlie Morton, but at least you know that going into the series, he doesn't get hurt during the series. You're not having to rush a Charlie Morton back like you did with Strider last year. The guys that are going to be in your bullpen are healthy. Minus, like again, the Jesse Chavez one's the most confusing one to me. It really is. So, I mean, as you said, like everything went wrong. Like only guys that really showed up were Travis Arnell and Matt Olson. Acuna had like 2 good games, but there was other 2 games which were stinky. I definitely know the defense is to be crisper this year. We went up to Philadelphia and forgot how to catch a fly ball. That can't happen again. We can't be giving up inside the park homers. We can't be letting balls drop in between us. Like those type of things cannot happen if we want to win this series. Like the bullpen has, this offense just has to outslug. Like if it's that much of a historical offense that people says it is, it has to outperform the Phillies and it has to outperform the pitching staff. And if you do that, you got a good chance to win. We talked about it all earlier. Strider and Nola, or Strider and Fried have to outdeal Wheeler and Nola. Our offense has to outbang their offense. We have to protect home field. Like all these things have to go your way in a coin flip best of 5 series. Like this is with 2 really good teams that know each other well. And I'm just really, I'm really excited for this series to get underway, but at the same time, I'm as nervous as I can be, which I'm sure a lot of true fans are. Once and for all, Micah, what's your number one pitching X factor and your number one offensive X factor for the Braves winning this series and moving on? Or if you want to go a little bit smaller, just taking care of game 1.
No. My X factor is for pitching. I go with Strider. And offensively, I'm gonna go with Ozuna. It's really tough for me to pick between Ozuna and Michael Harris, but either one of them really we need them to we need them to go out there and and hit the ball. We know what to expect from Acuna. We know what to expect from Olsen. We know what to expect from Albies, Riley, and hopefully they're able to go out there and do it. And if Harris and Ozuna is able to go out there and play and get put points on the board and get runs and um hit somebody in. This Braves offense is gonna be in a nice spot.
You didn't even mention playoff Eddie Rosario, but
Eddie.
Eddie. But yeah, even if you're getting first, if you end up getting first half Murphy and Arcia, which I'm not saying it happens, but if it does, is there a world where the Braves even lose this series if the offense is clicking like it was in the matter of June? Like one thing, Micah, we haven't. You know how like the Braves were on historic paces throughout the summer as like the best first inning team in baseball history.
Hmm.
How nice would that be to see that tomorrow night? Like we just boom drop four on Ranger Suarez's head in the first inning. Boom, you're up 4-0 going into the second inning. All of a sudden we're like we're in here. We're not down 7-1 like we were in last year's matchup. I would love to see that tomorrow. And like my
Absolutely.
excitement's here, but my fear is here. Like we're on a head-to-head collision, and I'm just ready to get this thing going. I'm also ready to be heartbroken again. Like I can't lose to the Phillies for a second time of the year, so I'm just praying. I'm superstitious as hell that the Braves get this series and job one. And yeah, I'm praying for the best, man. Anything else you would like to add regarding this series before we sign off for the evening and upload this?
I just want to say, no, go Braves. I'm expecting long postseason, victorious postseason. Um, I'm expecting a healthy postseason, and I'm hoping that we could go out there and get another ring. Going to be the second one that I've witnessed. If we're able to get it, that I've witnessed since being a fan. I've started being watching and learning for real in 2020 during COVID, and
Man,
since
you're a
I've
whole
been
decade behind me. I'm 2010. 2010 gang, 7 years
yeah,
old.
and like since I've been like actually watching and paying attention and trying to learn the game, this Braves team has not disappointed me with what I've watched
Yeah, easy to get
co-
into it when they're good, right? Right.
in comparison to what I have to watch with the Hawks and Falcons. But yeah,
Yeah, you,
uh,
you wouldn't have made it through the Braves rebuild. If you would have started watching through the rebuild, you're like, man, this is boring. I already know.
yeah, and that's crazy because I actually thought baseball was really boring. Like before 2020, of course, I like seen some baseball games. I went to some baseball games, but I really didn't like care to watch or care to be there because I didn't know what was happening. But during COVID, I actually decided to actually learn what was happening, and I actually found baseball to be very fun to watch and interesting to watch, and I'm enjoying it. So. Uh, Let's go Braves. Let's go out there and get another one and chop on.
Yeah, man. Like we have the potential to do what the '90s Braves couldn't, and that's when a second ring in an era the '90s Braves got the one and just couldn't finish the job in other years. I'm praying there's not a song written about the 2023 Braves like there was about the 1998 Braves by Morgan Wallen this year. Yeah, man. We enjoy having the Braves and the Hawks align at the end of the year. They always do for the Hawks playoffs because they end up in middle of April when the Braves are already going on. But we want to have the opportunity to have the Braves and the Hawks losing for one another, like we saw the last couple of years. And for them to do that, the Braves have to go deep. And man, like my mind is focused on tomorrow. I'm focused on National League Division Series Game One, and then we'll move on from there. I am one game at a time in this joint. Last year,
Mhm.
I slept walked. This is definitely a tougher draw than the 2021 or 2020 teams. We saw it last year. We even slept walked on the Cardinals 2019, 2018 with the Dodgers. I don't think we really had much of a chance that year either way. But I'm just ready to get this thing going, and I pray this isn't the only Braves recap episode we have to make, and it's not a season in review. But yeah, man, I want to have the opportunity to watch the Hawks and the Braves at the same time in a couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want the off season to be here. I want to play for another month, and I really, really want to get revenge on these Philadelphia scumbag Phillies. And I want to win this series, man. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. We should get this up pretty much right away. It is now just after the midnight hour on game day, October 7th, 2023 in the Eastern Standard Time. Mike is still living in the world of October 6th, so sucks to be you in the time zone. But yeah, guys, be prepared. If you're going to the game, be there, be loud, be the 10th man. Give give the Phillies hell out there. Make it this home field advantage felt, and let's go out and win some damn baseball games and show them that we still run the National League East
Yes,
and the last
sir.
year was a fluke. I can only pray. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Phillies fans, you can interact with this too. We really don't care at the end of the day. It's all love. At least we think. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time from around the A. Any final thoughts, Micah?
Go Braves. Let's go 1-0.
Go Braves. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.